Hey girl, you're listening to the Bright Life Podcast, all about ways to stay inspired, chase your dreams, and find more gratitude in the highs and lows of the journey. I'm your host, Jessica Johnson. I run a content marketing agency and travel the world as a digital nomad, just a suitcase, my hubby, and a trusty laptop in tow. I'm a self-growth junkie, a believer in other big-hearted women, and I'm all about sharing tips, tricks, lessons learned, and encouragement so we can all live our biggest, brightest lives. You ready? Let's do this. Hello. Welcome to today's episode. This is a short one. It's a little pep talk. It's all about one single line that I read the other day that I thought, wow, everyone needs to hear this, because I think it can apply to so many situations in life, whether you feel like you are too late to something, whether you feel like you're not doing enough or you're messing up or you're doubting yourself. This line has the power to really get you out of that headspace and to turn it around completely. I read it on Chris Carr's Facebook page. Chris Carr is an author, and she had been talking to her friend, Marie Forleo, another author, about this dilemma she had where she was writing this book and she was setting out to write something that was so motivational and so inspirational, but all that kept coming up this time was these feelings of grief and transition and how to get through this. And she just felt like no one is going to want to read this. This is such a buzzkill. Like, who's going to want to read a book that's all about my problems? And Marie Forleo so wisely said something back to her. This is the line, "What if the opposite were true?" And when I read that, I stopped because I just thought, wow, that can apply to any situation like this. And for Chris Carr, it helped because it made her realize, what if the opposite were true? What if there were people out there that were begging to read something real and raw and honest and going through a hard time and wanting to read that someone else had been there and had wisdom for them to bring them along and a little bit further? What if that was exactly what people needed to hear and wanted to hear from her? And so when I read that, I just thought, this can apply to everything, right? Like, how many of us have something where we feel like we aren't doing enough or we're behind or we're not doing it right? I think this can really help reframe those thoughts. So, for example, if there's an area of your life where you're nervous to start something or you're doubting yourself, like for me, when I first started this podcast, and even honestly now, there's sometimes parts of me that goes, there's so much going on in the world. Who's going to want something that's so like peppy and positive? Like, people are having a hard time. Like, who wants this really happy content, right? Or content about wanting to be your best self because people are just doing the best they can right now, right? Like, I feel like that some days you don't have extra to give. But when I think about what if the opposite were true, what if there are people out there who want to hear exactly what's on my heart? What if there are people out there who do want this 15-minute little bright spot, even if there's a lot going on in their world otherwise? What if my message does reach the exact right people who want to hear from me? It's so much more empowering. Like, that's just a little slice into my own headspace and vulnerability of how I feel sometimes, but you can use this for anything. If you feel like you're not doing enough, what if the opposite were true? What if you're killing it? What if you're managing a job and a family and your health and a pandemic and all the news and everything that's going on? What if you're doing more than people have done in the history of the world and you are crushing it? What if there's people you don't even know who are looking at you that you're inspiring, who are wishing to be able to do half of what you do the way you do it? What if you feel like you are messing everything up? What if the opposite were true? What if you are doing everything exactly as you should be right now? What if you're learning? What if the things that you're learning right now are setting you up for what you can't even see coming around the corner? What if what you perceive as failures is actually taking you to the next level of your life? What if the things that you said you wanted that seems so hard to reach and so hard to get through. What you're going through now is preparing you to have those things. What if you're doing the mindset work now that is going to set you up for those things that you said you wanted? You know, it's such an amazing reframe. I hear sometimes people say, the market's too saturated. I can't do this or I can't do that. And what I think, sometimes I'm like, no, oh my gosh, what if the opposite were true? What if no one is doing it the way you would do it? What if it's not too late? What if there's some people that are only going to learn it from you? I have heard this once, and I really think it's true because sometimes my husband and I will joke about this. Where I'll, say something, I'll teach him something that I learned or that I heard on a podcast or a book, and he'll acknowledge it. We'll have a conversation about it. And it's like he'll forget until a few months later, he'll go, oh my gosh, my friend Kevin said to do this thing. We totally have to do this. And I'm like, wait, we talked about this. I told you this. But it's not that he's being disrespectful. It's that he's hearing it from someone, a teacher that it really lands for him with. Another funny point about Marie Forleo, because she's part of this conversation, is that I once read that her husband had been really into healthy foods at a time when she was eating mac and cheese and, all the things. And he had said, wow, we should really do juicing or, vegetables. And she was like, yeah, I don't really think that's my thing. And then she met this friend, Chris Carr, who we talked about at the beginning of this episode. And Chris Carr was really into healthy food. And so Marie Forleo went home and she said, honey, I just think we should start doing these things. This sounds so fun. My friend Chris was telling me about this. And her husband was like, what? Are you serious? Like, I said this years ago. So I really think there is that element of there is the right teacher out there for everyone. Someone could tell you the exact same thing, but you're going to hear it from the person that really connects and resonates with you. So what if it's not too saturated? What if you're the exact person that some people will hear it from and they're not going to hear it from anyone else, no matter if there's 100 other people saying the same thing? Another thing that I hear women say a lot of is, I'm too much or I'm too little of this or that, right? Like, I'm too loud, I'm too bold, I'm too little of whatever, I'm not enough of this. What if the opposite were true? What if the fact that you are bossy or that you are bold or that you are assertive is exactly what you need to get places in this world? And that is exactly the skills you need to do what you're here to do. What if you have everything that you need to achieve the life that's on your heart, unlike anyone else's? What if you're not too little of those other things? What if you're exactly right? What if the quirks about you are the gifts that are going to make you stand out or are going to make people notice you or are going to make people connect with you when no one else has that same secret sauce? What if you're not too much or too little, but the complete opposite was true? Another thing that I've been hearing a little bit of lately is it's too late for me. It's too late to do that career. It's too late to start the blog or the podcast or the social media channel. What if the opposite were true? What if it's the exact right time for you to do that? What if all the skills that you've been building up until this point now make it the best time for you to do this? What if this will accelerate your success in a million ways because you have waited to now when you have all this background and experience and stories and history to bring to this? What if it's the exact right time in history when there's certain people that are out there and there's certain technologies and you can do things in your own evenings or what your schedule? There's so many factors that you can look at for what if the opposite were true and this is the perfect time. You could have never done it any other time the way that you'll do it now. What if you're exactly where you're supposed to be? What if you're doing everything you're meant to be doing? What if these times are preparing you for what's right around the corner? It's such a small shift. It's just one line. A lot of times in these episodes, I share 3 or 5 things. This is just one phrase. What if the opposite were true? But I really hope that no matter what situation in life you apply it to, it gives you a little bit of lightness and a little bit of creativity, and you feel like you can do that. You feel like you can do that Facebook Live or that cooking class or start the business or start the podcast. You feel like it's not too late for you. You're exactly the right amount of everything, because isn't that a more empowering way to feel? It's almost like you can accept either truth, right? And like we talked about in a previous episode, you can stack evidence that either belief is true and keep believing that. But what I would encourage you to do, and what I am going to try and make a practice of myself, is always remembering that what's also available to me is, what if the opposite were true? And everything you have to offer and everything you are is exactly enough and exactly right. Have a wonderful rest of your week. I'll talk with you next time. Thank you so much for listening in. If you loved this episode, it would mean so much to me if you share it on Instagram stories and tag me so I can personally thank you for helping get the message out. I am so grateful to be on this journey with you. Until next time, talk to you soon.